I meant push. Great. So the next step is going to be Rematch. So getting in a store, a central repository for all of our application state, and then wiring something up to be able to talk to it. So let's yarn add Rematch and Redux logger. Now the logger I should have put as a dev dependency. Let's do that. Move it down. The other thing I need to do is add in yarn add Redux. React Redux specifically. Let's change the color. So I didn't blind you. Okay. Turn that up a little bit. Hello, hello, test. Okay. So so if you recall from the kind of chat earlier, we have to wrap our tree in the provider. So let's do provider. We're gonna have a store and store. Models. I'm horrible at typing. Okay, so provider, that's going to come from React Redux. Now, the other thing here is remember we got to organize imports, right? Just so that we don't get tslint complaining to us. Okay, into models now. Let's have a new file. Store.ts. Import init from rematch. Okay, I'm gonna go const store equals init. Give it an empty config object for now. Export store. Okay, we also want that logger, right? So create logger is called create logger Redux logger. So const middlewares equals to, we'll give it an array, create. And all it's going to do is it's going to go through all the middleware defined in the logger in order. So then down here we're going to have Redux. Actually, these are the middlewares. Okay. This spelling is what it's complaining about, so let's add middlewares to my dictionary. Global dictionary? Sure. Why not? Yarn add types React Redux. Holy, let's go. Okay. Get the DevTools up. Should, in React, now see the store, right? So if it's provider, okay, here's the store. And there's obviously nothing in it right now, it's an empty model. Okay, so we my Vim mode again. Toggle Vim mode. Models. Okay, so normally what you do is you're gonna have more than one model. So what you typically do is import star is models from models. Okay, I'm going to create a file called models. And let's say we'll just create a kind of a example model. Let's call it hello world. In models, what you do is you go export and import in the same line. How do we do that again? Second type script export import re-export. Where is it? There we go. Export star from hello world. Okay, there you go. So in here, what I want to do is const. Oh, I can't spell hello. Okay, so I want my hello world model. It's going to be an object. It's going to have state. It's going to have reducers. And it's going to have effects. Okay, so what we'll do in effects here is we'll get something from an API. Here we will just kind of update state. Call this any for now, and payload any for now as well, and return a new bit of state. Okay, so let's just go something here. Go math.random, and in state we're going to have a value. We're going to set it to 0 initially. Okay, so I've not exported that. Reducer is not sorted alphabetically. QRS. Smart state last. Okay, so I should now be able to call this update, and what it should do is it should automatically set the value to a random number. So every time I hit update, it should do that for me. This model here for the hello world part of our application is imported and re-exported from models, and then inside store it would then add it to the actual store, and then it kind of cascades all the way down through the hierarchy. So if I go to components now, I've got home. So now let's create something else to show. I think everyone's getting sick in my family. It's perfect. Okay, so how do we want to do this? Let's maybe we want to add a route. Oops. No, let's not add a route because I don't really want to get into that right now. Let's add another box. In this box, we're going to put in our hello world component, or example. Okay, I'm now going to create a component called hello world. I'm going to want that connect higher order component from React Redux. I'm going to want, that's all I can think of right now, const hello world react.functional component. Right, and just putting a lot of the stuff in place for when we start kind of making these a bit more complete. Right now they're quite simple. Okay, so let's return typography element, and we're just going to go have const value. Actually, we'll call it message. Actually, actually, let's do this a little bit more of a detailed example. Okay, so let's go to the store again. Not that store, sorry, the Hello World store. Okay, so what we're going to do here is let's not just simply have a state. Let's have a kind of a name, a message, and a value. Okay. So what we're going to do is going to go name. Going to have message. We're going to have updated. Okay. Of course, it's going to complain. MNOPQRSTUV. If I could, here we go. Okay, so what I want to do is when this update function is called, I want it to update the state. So how am I going to do that, right? I need to do it by returning a new state, complete state object. So what's going to be handed in is what's called the payload, and that's what's going to be passed in as a function parameters in the component that calls it. So let's define a couple interfaces. Okay, so we're going to call iPayload. Okay, so what am I actually going to pass, right? Well, I could separate all my reducers and do individual things. So I could do something like update name, update message, okay, and then I could have a payload. I could do name. Let's make that optional. We'll just do one interface right now. String and a message. Also a string. Okay. And this is my payload. Okay. Let's have the wrong side. The other interface is going to be iState. Okay. And in this instance, why don't we go? It's going to have message, which is a string. It's going to have name, which is a string. It's going to have updated. Let's make that a string as well for simplicity. Okay, so state here is now going to have iState. And this is going to return iState. So now it's complaining because I haven't returned everything it's supposed to return, right? So what you don't want to do is mutate state. So you don't want to go state dot name equals my new name, because what you've done is you've mutated the state that's been passed in, which is this object here. You want to create and return a new state object, and the reason you do that is when React is rendering, it will look at the difference between the old state and the new state to calculate what needs to be updated and what doesn't. If you mutate the state itself, then it can't compare it to what it was before. So that's what we want to do. Okay, so in this instance, update name, we're going to return an object. If we unpack the old state, and then if we just do name is equal to payload dot name, right? So name's a string. Name is not assignable to type. Why are you not? Oh, because it could. Okay. Yeah, so it's complaining. Let's for now, I'm not actually working out what these types should really actually be. I'm just trying to use an example. Okay, so let's assume that we always get a name and always get a name. Make it even simpler. Okay. So name. And the other thing we want to do is we want to update the updated, right? So let's do updated. Let's do new date to string. Okay. So state will take the current version of name, message, and updated, put it into this object, and then it'll overwrite these next two. So even simpler, I can go message, state.message. Okay. And if I wanted this to be a bit more concise in terms of how it's written, I could go const message state. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. So here's my reducer for updating the name, and then inside there I've got a message, name, and updated. So let's say, what do I want my message, right? So it's really nice to meet you, and then I'll use name, and then when I actually display this. Okay, so hello world. So props is gonna, what do I want to get off props, right? Well, let's get name, message, and updated, because those are what I'm gonna wire in. And now what I want to do is I'm gonna have an interface, which is iProps, here props, here props. Name, which is a string, message, which is a string, updated, which is a string. Okay, so now let's use a literal to do this. Typography. Okay, so I could go, one way I could do this is I could do something like message, name, and then something like this was updated at, okay, and then updated. Okay, and then pretty ugly. Right, pretty ugly. We'll come back and clean this up in a minute. Okay, so next thing I need to do now is I need to wire up this component to that store, right? How do I connect this to the store? So I'm going to create two helper functions. One's called map_state, which is going to take the state, the global state. In this global state, I could define this, and I should define it in here, right? Because this is going to be something that's going to be everywhere. So interface iState. You see I'm starting to get a bit in a bit of trouble here with how I'm renaming everything iState, so we're going to have to probably think this through a little bit more, right? So I would probably say like iGlobal state, just so I don't get confused. Now global state is going to have, what's the shape of global state going to look like, right? Well, I have a hello world object, and that hello world object is going to have a name, which is a string, message, which is a string, and updated, which is a string. Okay, if I can spell updated. And we can even do a better job in the models, which we'll won't get to here, but for now this is sufficient. Okay, so hello world map state is going to have iGlobal state. That's its type. Okay, and now it's going to return an object literal, and that object literal is I'm going to map elements of state to values in that object, right? So let's say, you know, I want name, message, and updated. That's what I want. So name state.name, message state.message, and updated state.updated. Okay. Why do you not like it? Oh yeah, so it's going to be state.hello. Remember the structure of this is hello world, and then those are on hello world. So hello world dot name. Okay, hope that makes sense. Now what I need to do, I need to connect this helper function to inject everything in hello world, and I use that connect function to do it, right? So I'm now going to create an intermediary variable called connected hello world connect. Okay. If you're not familiar with the syntax, it will get easier, trust me. It just takes a bit of time to get used to it. Okay, and then export hello. I'm going to use that intermediate, but I want to rename it when it's actually exported, right? Just so that I don't have all these weird different named variables. Okay, so now what I should be able to do. Okay, so I need to import inside home. Oh. Come on, computer. Okay, so inside home, hello world, I haven't imported it yet, right? Now, because when I initially put this in, that didn't exist in VS Code or many editors, I can just go hello world now, tap it in, and now it will automatically import it for me, okay? Okay, it's really nice to meet you. This was updated at, you know, obviously there's nothing in the store right now. I could manually put those values into the store, so let's do that and see what that looks like quickly. Here's my name. So now if you updated that, and I could do, you know, new date dot to string. Okay, and okay. So what I want to be able to do is now take the user input to update this this store, right? So how am I going to do that? Well, I'm going to use a text input field, but I think I can do. We'll get to it in a minute, actually. Okay, so let's now create this hello world. If you remember from back here, it's inside a box, right? So what I could do is I could just put another box inside hello world to wrap this in it. But we don't really need the properties of the box right now, so I'm just going to put it into a React fragment. What I want to use is a text field from Material UI. Okay. The text field is going to have a label. What's your name? It's going to have a value. Okay, that value is going to be equal to name, whatever was in the store, and then I'm going to have it on change. Okay, so and for now, event, and this is just going to have console.log event.target.value. Okay, what is your name? You can see this is now here, and I can't change it right now because I haven't finished wrapping this up. Now, if I got rid of value here, I could type stuff in as you would want. But what you want to do, so this is what's called an uncontrolled component right now, where it's the value that it holds is not tied to anything. But in React, what you actually want to do is you want to have controlled components. And the way it's controlled is where you bind a value to value and you handle on change together. So this is now a controlled component. And that's why I can't change anything right now if I type, because I haven't handled the on change yet. What I should see is in this a whole bunch of stuff coming out, right? So if I just hit A, it's trying to do, or 1, or 2, right? Okay, so I need to now dispatch an action in order to update this value. And you can certainly do this much more simply if you don't care about saving this value in a global state. So that's absolutely an option. Not everything has to go in the global state. It's just things that you want to put there. So for right now, obviously we're just demonstrating, so we're putting everything there. Okay, so next thing now is const map dispatch. Okay, and this is going to be dispatch. And for now, I'm just going to call this any. Okay, so what do I want? I want it called update name, didn't I? And a dispatch dot hello world update name. Update name. Okay, so let's give dispatch dispatch. Okay, let's go into our dispatch. So I'm gonna have a hello world, and there I'm gonna have an update name function. What's that gonna take? It's gonna take new name, string, return void. Don't think it returns anything actually. Oh. I think that's. I'll double check, but let's assume that's good. Okay. So now map these together. Now if I connect this, I should be able to go to map dispatch. Okay. Up in here now, I'll also have an update name, which is going to have the exact same signature as that thing in dispatch because it's the same element. New name, string, and then return void. Okay, great. Actually, I'm not sure. This needs to be injected, doesn't it? Okay. React function props. I wonder actually. This doesn't go here. I think where this is going to go is down here. But yeah, let's not get into that now because when I want to double check that's right, I'm just going to ignore that for now. Okay. Okay, updated name. Okay. So now what we want is when we tap something here, we want it to dispatch an action, right? So I should be able to go props.update name. What do we call it? Update name. Okay, now the reason it's complaining here, right, is because I haven't actually declared that update name exists on props. For now, I'm going to cheat for a minute. Okay, so let's see if I can actually change this now, and I can change it. Great. And it changes it by going up through the state and coming back down again. What was that original error? Okay, this is a component going from controlled input to uncontrolled, which is what I was talking about. So don't worry about it for now. This is what we want to happen. Okay, so the next bit we need to deal with is this horrible hello world message that we've put here. Let's just kind of do a couple things. We're going to go full width. We're going to get this text box to do the full width, and we're going to go margin normal just to make it a little bit nicer. Okay, good. Now let's do this message. Let's make this look a little bit nicer. So right now I'm pulling off a name, a message, and update it from the global store. Let's do something a little bit more clever than that. Why don't we turn message here into a function, okay, that returns our hello message. So we're going to turn it into a template literal, and let's give it a name. Is a string, is a parameter. It's really nice to meet. So we'll say hello name. It's nice to meet you. And of course we need an emoji in here. Smile. Okay. So what we're going to have to change now is also what message looks like here. So if we go into our, this is no longer a string. This is now going to be, well, it's going to return a string actually. It's going to take a name of string. So this is a function that takes a string name and returns a string. And that's what I've defined, where am I? In here. Okay, so message, right? In terms of me returning it, I'm just returning that that function each time. Now, I've done that for demonstration purposes. Typically what I do is I just do, right, just so I don't forget something, because as you're adding things to state, you may forget to unpack something when you're creating the new version of state. Okay, so let's jump back in here now. Where are we? So updated. Let me see what the error message is. Type function component is not assignable to. Okay. So this is the issue here, right? This message is actually now a function with a string. Okay, great. All right, so what do we want to do, right? What we want to happen is we want to execute this message and give it the value of name. So typically you want to minimize how much stuff you're putting in here. Why don't we just put hello message? We'll calculate that outside of the return, just to give our hello message. Okay, and what we're going to do is that's going to be equal message with name. Okay, so hello undefined, that didn't work. Blah. Okay, so what we're going to do now is what we're going to say, if it's undefined at the start, we're not going to put anything. Okay, so the way we'll do that, we'll say if name, it's really undefined. Why is it undefined? Let's just quickly jump in the debugger and see what it is. Yeah, so the first time around, I thought it was just going to be an empty string. That's why I yeah, it should just be an empty string. Okay, so first time around, name is that. If I step through this, so I have name, message, and updated. So I skip over this. Hello, empty string. It's nice to meet you. Okay, that worked. Not sure why that was being funny. It's probably that hot module reloading and all of that fancy business. So now let's put S in there. Okay, so I see. Okay, so it's once I've changed it, what's happening is I haven't written the name properly when that action is dispatched. So let's take a look. Event to target value, prop set update name, which is what I would want. Update name. Payload. Okay, payload.name is not what I want, right? It's just payload. Now, payload should just be a string here. So this actually makes no sense. That's kind of what I was getting in trouble with. Okay. Let's refresh this. Test. Okay. Hello, Timothy. Okay, so the next thing here is if name is an empty string, I want it to print something different than message, right? So let's do name tell us your name. Okay, refresh this. That's your name. So as soon as I start typing, it should change. This is my name. Great. Okay, so that's now hooked up to the store, which is good. What we want. How long we're into 33 minutes. Okay, so I'm going to try to wrap up here in a minute. I want to just clean up how this is done because this is a bit messy, right? So the rule you want to follow is dry, right? Don't repeat yourself. So I can see I've repeated myself 3 times here with the exact same thing, right? And then again with message, name, and updated. So there's a lot of repetition here. And the way I can actually make that simpler is I can destructure state. I can destructure state up here. So what you do is I know state's coming in. I know state is going to have the iGlobal state type. I can go like this, and I can pull out hello world from it. Okay, so I'm destructuring it is an argument, and then inside here I know I have message, name, and updated. Okay, and then what I can actually do is just this. Now these ones here, don't think I can go string here. I'm actually doing this separate. Yeah, did I spell string here? Yeah. I always get lost in when I'm doing these because they get it gets a bit tricky. I think you do it. Where do you do it? Hold on. Just cheat and look it up. It comes after the function list altogether, so I think it comes. Yeah, it comes after. Okay. So, is it inside? It is inside. So let's try this. It's gonna be a bit. Oh god. Okay, we're not going to do this because that is going to be worse than what we were originally doing. Okay. So let's go all the way back to how we had it. We're going to just do it inside I global state. Okay. Turn. Sometimes you try to be too clever and it just doesn't work. Const. Okay. So that works way better. I think that the TypeScript destructuring gets a bit messy, so I think this is a cleaner way to do it than trying to define it. I think another way you can do it is you can have it after. But anyways. So let's do something similar for dispatch, right? And in this instance, you may not always need to do it, but it is nice when it works out well. So const update name match dot hello world. Okay, let's make sure it still works. Test, test, test. Great. I better refresh it. Test. Great. Okay, so I've now already updated. Did I put it in there? Tell us your name, message, and then we're going to say updated at there you go. I mean, still pretty ugly, but you get the idea. It's more for demonstration. Okay. So let's see why this is complaining. Import sources. Okay, so let's go through the whole committing process here and fixing the bits that don't make much sense. So if I do get add, what's happened to my terminal? It works. So git add, git commit, added in basic rematch store wired of example component. Okay, so see store models key is not sorted alphabetically. Right, so great. Git add, commit. What did I just do? I think I hadn't added the files to the first one. Okay, so that was easier than I thought. Hopefully that made sense. We haven't really used common yet. We haven't really gotten into a lot of the more advanced stuff. But we're just running out of time to make these a bit more digestible. So let's stop this here, and then next time when we come back, what I'll do is in Rematch do some asynchronous calls, and then look at different screens within here, and the actual app itself just getting a bit more complicated.